Bellator 249 marks the first time Bellator will be broadcast live on prime time on CBS Sports Network from the United States. It's Thursday, October 5th, and undefeated heavyweight Steve Mowry of Sanford MMA right here in South Florida, Deerfield Beach, battles the Norwegian Nightmare, Shawn Teed. Thank you, Steve. Tell us about the fight and being part of this historic event.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to be a part of something so, prestigious as the CBS Sports Network. And, as for the fight itself, I haven't fought in a while. I had a fight I had to back out of in February because of a skin infection, and then I had a false positive coronavirus test back in July. So I've been away from the cage, so I'm looking forward to really getting back in there and getting back in there on the biggest stage Bellator's ever been on.
How did the training go, and were you able to train right at Sanford MMA? Did you have to adjust with COVID?
So at the beginning of quarantine, we had to, make some adjustments. But, the last few months, camp went smooth sailing. We had a lot of really good guys in the gym. A lot of, the best training partners I've ever had to work with were there. Obviously, all my coaches were around there, a huge help. So I'm looking forward to really, putting all that hard work on display.
Who were your coaches, and who were some of the fighters, I guess, you worked with?
So my coaches are Henry Hooft, Greg Jones, Tommy Barzini, and Corey Peacock. And then in the gym, I was working out mostly with a gentleman named Lit Vassell, another guy, Ong Lan Song, who's the two-weight world champion for 1FC, a bunch of other guys that probably aren't big names yet. They were all in the gym pushing me day in, day out, helping me get ready. It was great.
Yeah, he's doing really great things over with One Championship. I've interviewed him before as well. It's interesting because we hear a lot about American Top Team, but when you think of all the fighters at Sanford MMA, it's what a great facility. And it used to be Hard Knocks 365. What's it been like just being a part of that team?
Yeah, it's really special. I think that, the coaches have cultivated something very special, amongst the athletes and amongst themselves in such a way that's really been conducive for everybody's success and everybody's growth. And I'm just, really blessed and grateful to be a part of it.
How did you get affiliated with the group?
I met Henry coming up on 5 years ago, and I was getting ready to make my pro debut. I needed a different gym environment than the one I was at up in Pittsburgh. And, we met. He'd asked me if I wanted to come down, and, it just clicked. He was somebody that I'd watched as an aspiring fighter and as an amateur. I really liked his body of work, and it was just something that, really worked, and it really worked out. And, throughout the years, we went from, the Black Zillions, where we started, it had a couple different evolutions along the way, and now we're Sanford MMA.
Being that it's Sanford MMA, and it's a really interesting concept because it really delves into health and fitness. What has that aspect been like, and do you see this possibly as the future?
Yeah, definitely. I really think Sanford, they really, put their feet down in the market at the right time. I think, not to be biased, but I really think that if they were going to partner with, the strongest group of people they possibly could have partnered with, they grabbed the right people. Between Henry and Greg and all the other staff, working behind the scenes, I really think that, this is going to be a very fruitful partnership. We're going to be something really special, something that's going to be copied, emulated, all that for the years to come.
Steve, how do you feel about the heavyweight division with Bellator and the steps that Bellator's making? Now, CBS Sports Network for shows. This has been a really cool time. But what are your thoughts overall of what's going on in Bellator, especially in the heavyweights?
There's a lot of good guys. A lot of good guys have been fighting other really good guys for a really long time. Some of them dudes that are on the upcoming, and then other guys who I've been watching fights since, before I was even fighting, which is, special. It's really cool to be a part of. It's really cool to know that, at some point I might be fighting against some of my own idols and heroes.
For you transitioned from Pittsburgh, up in that area. What was it like for you coming to South Florida, and were you familiar at all with South Florida? Have you ever visited South Florida before that?
I've never been to South Florida. I had grandparents who had a place in the Villages, which is, obviously farther north, probably not considered South Florida. It was definitely a culture shock. There's a lot of, and just not just in the weather, but also the culture is different, and it took a little bit of getting used to, but I love Florida, and I'm happy to call it my home. I'm happy that I have my roots down there now, and I'm projected to stay there for at least another few years.
Are you a Pittsburgh Steelers fan?
You got to be. You can't be from Pittsburgh and not be a Steelers fan.
All right, so there's a good fan base down here of Steelers fans. There are places you can go watch Steelers games. It's interesting down here. Have you met a lot of people or any people from the Pittsburgh area down here?
Oh, all the time. I'm always bumping into people that are Pittsburgh fans. I used to work security in Delray, and I bumped into a guy wearing Steelers attire, on a football game day, and asked him what part of Pittsburgh he was from, and he told me New Jersey. So, yeah, Pittsburgh's a far-reaching fan base, not just obviously because of the Steelers, but we had the Pirates, who had a long dynasty back in the day, and then you also our hockey team, the Penguins, always killing it. So,
yeah, Mario Lemieux, Sidney Crosby. I mean, Pittsburgh's been blessed with a lot of good sports.
Oh, for sure, and then no small help to themselves between the Rooneys and the administration behind the Penguins. Man, it's good to be a Pittsburgh native.
The Rooney's legendary ownership and all. It's a good sports town. Really, really good area. In Pittsburgh also, I don't know if you're familiar with Primanti Brothers.
Of course.
Have you tried it down here?
I have. It's similar. I know that Primanti Brothers pizza is really popular down here, which was strange. But Primanti Brothers everywhere you go.
Hey, Steve, what are your goals? Why did you decide, hey, I'm going to start to get into MMA? Were you athletic growing up?
No, I was not. I didn't come around to it until I was a junior in high school when I started wrestling. I read about it in a magazine, and I thought, that's something, I don't know why. Like I said, I didn't have an athletic background, but it was just something that, when I read about it, I thought it was really cool. It was something I thought, I could probably be good at if I really put myself to it. So, my goal now is to be one of the baddest there ever was. I want to be somebody that, carries a prestigious name, kind of like, Ali, Tyson, Klitschko, Badr Hari, some of the greats, and I want my name to be attached to that kind of legacy. So that's why I'm here. I'm working hard every day to get closer and closer to that.
Well, you mentioned the greatest, Muhammad Ali, and I'm interested if you had any thoughts of trying boxing or kickboxing or even professional wrestling, which I know is scripted, but you still have to be athletic and you have to be in shape and you have to do physical things.
Yeah, my focus is definitely MMA right now. I boxed as an amateur, just for the experience and for the fun of it. I had one of my first coaches was a boxer, so he kind of showed me the way there, and I thought it would be fun to do, and I did it. So, no, my focus for now is MMA, but you never know what happens in the future.
Were you into pro wrestling at all as a kid? I know a lot of kids get into that.
No, I wasn't actually. We weren't allowed to watch it. My dad hated it. He thought it was an affront to sports, and he thought it was kind of like a disgrace to actual real wrestling, because he was actually a wrestling fan, like real wrestling. So, no, we weren't allowed to watch it at all. And I can respect it for what it is, and the athletic ability you have to be able to do it. But no, it wasn't something I grew up as a fan of.
Did your father or any other members of your family get into sports actively playing at all?
Yeah, my dad ran track at Edinburgh, small university up in Pennsylvania. My mom did sports all through high school and middle school. My brothers and sisters, a lot of them played sports, but like I said, it wasn't something that was for me until all of a sudden it was.
It's interesting that you don't really have an athletic background, but to do this takes athleticism, physicality, conditioning, workouts. How was that transition when you first started to get into MMA?
Honestly, I didn't really notice the difference. I just showed up at the gym, worked really hard, and the results played out as the more work I put in, the more I got out of it. So I don't know. I don't know if I really even. I'm not saying that being athletic and athleticism isn't a thing, but I'm not sure how much that really plays into the success of a specific athlete, you know, in terms of, or whenever you put it against the backdrop of how hard they've worked, you know.
Steve, did you do any college, go to college or anything as far as academically, or did you get right away into MMA?
I did a year of community college, but that was around the time when I was getting ready to start fighting. So, you know, I took a step back and I looked at it, and I realized that, you know, I could probably do school whenever I wanted. I could do school when I'm 40. I could do school when I'm 50. I can't go to school, get a job, have a career, and then come back to fighting whenever I'm 40 or 50. So that's just kind of how that shook out. I decided I'm going to give fighting everything I have, give it my full attention, and then when I'm done, you know, we'll see what happens.
Was there a certain fighter that you saw that really inspired you to do this?
So when I was younger, I really liked Frank Mir. I thought Frank Mir was a man, and so far as I know, he's not with Bellator anymore. But it was kind of interesting to see like how it all, you know, shook out, where he ended up, and he's somebody whose career I've really followed. I've really, you know, kind of, I don't want to say modeled after, but I think my style and his style were always similar, and I don't think that was a coincidence. He was one of my first ever, like, real favorite fighters. And then just amongst him, you know, I have, like, Jose Aldo will always be one of my favorites. Chris Weidman was always one of my favorites. Just to name a couple.
A few more questions, we'll wrap this up, and thank you, Steve, so much for the time. You're an undefeated heavyweight, and that's impressive at any number. You're at 7-0 now, going for 8-0. What has that been like for you? Because fighters that have lost, they can learn from their loss. You haven't experienced that. So for you, how is the mindset going forward? How important is it to stay undefeated and to be undefeated?
It's not. It really isn't. I just focus on putting on the best performance that I possibly can. I focus on being as aggressive and relentless, as violent as I possibly can. I work as hard as I possibly can in the gym. I try to learn as much as I can. And I've just been blessed to, you know, see the success indicative of my work ethic. So, you know, very few people get in and out of this sport entirely undefeated. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, I'm not really concerned about that. What I'm more concerned about is having a career that I can be proud of, you know, whenever I'm 40, whenever I'm 50, whenever fighting just won't be with me anymore. I want to be able to look back and say I did the best that I absolutely could. And, you know, while being undefeated is nice and it looks good whenever you say it before my name, undefeated Bellator heavyweight, sounds cool. Honestly, it's not something for me that's really important.
Now for this fight, you're at Bellator 249, you're going to go against Shawn Teed, and he is the Norwegian Nightmare. So what do you know about Shawn? And when you're preparing for a fight, do you watch film of past fights of these fighters? I know things can change, obviously, from fight to fight.
Yeah, I do. Kind of like you said, people change, people grow, develop new skills. It's not entirely unheard of. You see people do it all the time. So, you know, I do try to get a general idea of what they like and what they don't like whenever they fight. But, you know, I don't get married to the tape. What I do focus on, or what I tend to focus on at least, is me and my own training, my own preparation. And while, you know, you do try to do some fight-specific stuff whenever you're getting ready for a fight, I'm finding that the best fighters in the world have built a solid skill set and a solid foundation, and you know, they let that acumen stay with them, and that's what wins them their fights. You know, I see it a lot, and like I said, you see all the time guys. They spend 6 weeks preparing for a fight, but then 2 weeks out, they have the fight change. Well, they did 6 weeks of preparation for one specific opponent, and then they have a new opponent 2 weeks out. So that's kind of been the training philosophy at our gym, and that's kind of the training philosophy I've adopted too.
Well, Steve, has that been a training philosophy all the time, or is that more because of COVID?
That's been a training philosophy all the time, but COVID definitely reasserted, especially the first several months of it, were more just about getting into the gym, staying safe, staying in shape, staying skilled, you know, developing. It was a good time to put new concepts into action for sure. So that's what I did.
Well, Steve, you're a big guy, about 6'8", correct?
Yes.
And, I mean, young guy too, but still having a false positive for COVID, you mentioned that. How scary was that time, just going through that process, not knowing and then having a test again and all?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. It wasn't really scary as much as it was frustrating. I'd already had and gotten over COVID by the time the false positive happened. So, I mean, I got to be honest with you. It didn't shake me to my core like I was afraid, so much as it did. You know, it's a lot of headaches. It had me really frustrated. Like I said, I'd worked really hard and made a lot of adjustments in my life to be able to make that fight helpful. And you know, for to have the rug pulled out of me, kind of like last minute, like it was really unfortunate. So I'm looking forward to making that up to myself, this coming Thursday.
And Steve, I noticed, am I correct in saying you don't have a nickname?
Yes.
Okay, I know others give you the nickname, or at least that's what I've learned. You could just give yourself a nickname, but is there a reason for that? Or you're just glad, look, I just want to go out and fight, I don't need a nickname, or it just hasn't happened yet?
I don't know. I guess I get called some nicknames here and there, but honestly, I don't know. I focus on the fight. If I want to get a nickname, I have all kind of pet names between, my mom and, whatever, stuff like that. I don't know. Nicknames, it was never really something special for me. So if I get one at some point, it won't be one that I made up for myself.
Hey, and lastly, we'll let you out of here. Bellator 249, Thursday, October 15th, CBS Sports Network. First time from the United States, live prime time, very cool. What does the family think about you fighting? And from the beginning when you first started and wanted to, and then being a part of these big events now and trying to watch you and be a part of all this?
My parents initially, when I first started, both were not very supportive. But my dad came around pretty quickly. He saw how hard I worked, and whenever I started competing, there was some success, and he figured out pretty quickly that even though that he thought he might have been wrong, and he thought well, this is what you think God's calling for your life is, then by all means go after it. And like I said, he got on board pretty quickly once he saw just how serious I was about it and how tangible the success of it was. My mom, on the other hand, I don't know if she'll ever really be cool with me fighting, but she's supportive in her own way, and I don't know if she came to one fight as an amateur. I think she had her fill of it then, but I don't know. Since then, though, they've been really supportive. They've always kind of propped me up and been proud of me, and both in their own way. And now that it parlayed into the moment in time that I'm at now, I think they're just kind of admiring it for what it is, just like how I am. Taking it one day at a time, appreciating how far I've come, grateful for everything that's come along with it. So, yeah, I got my brother into boxing, and now he's just a boxer, but that's really cool. So, but all that said, my family's been, especially recently, has been really supportive of it.
And finally, who did you bring with you for this fight?
Brought my teammate, my mentor, my whatever, all that good stuff. Mentioned the Swarm Vassell, and I brought one of the team captains, one of the team leaders, Sean Soriano. He's Henry Hoop's assistant, and I'm really looking forward to putting on the show for these guys.
Well, Steve, want to wish you all the best for the Thursday night event. Very cool event, Bellator 249. And hey, maybe you can come out to No Gimmicks Needed. Steve Mowry.
No, yeah, that's right.
Hey, thank you much.